You need a pen?
I don't know.
Here.
I'd like to call to order the Macedonia Planning Commission public hearing for July 15th,
No, this one is
2024.
right all over me, thank you.
We get a roll call?
Mr. Westbrooks?
Here.
Mr. Wallenhorst?
Here.
Mr. Cox?
Here.
Mr. Roberts and Ms. Muskie are absent.
The only item on the agenda tonight is Prime IV proposing approval of conditional use certificate to operate a medical facility in a B2 community shopping district located at 911 East Aurora Road. Is there anyone here from the public that wishes to speak to this evening? I see no one, and we were a few minutes late, so they should have probably been here by now if they were going to. So with that, I'll accept the motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. So we'll roll right to the regular, call order the regular planning commission meeting for July 15th, 2024. Can we get a roll call?
Absolutely. Mr. Westbrooks?
Here.
Mr. Wallenhorst?
Here.
Mr. Cox?
Here.
Mr. Roberts and Ms. Muskie are absent.
First item is approval of the June 17th minutes, which I believe we were all here for. Anybody have any comments?
I have no changes.
A motion that we approve the minutes as submitted.
I'd second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. All right, then the first item is Prime IV for the proposed conditional use certificate to operate a medical facility in a B2 community shopping district, 911 East Aurora Road. And so it's you guys. Feel free to come on up. You can have a seat here in front of us.
How are you all doing today?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Got some comments from our planner. Ms. Franz, would you like to go with those?
Yeah, my report dated July 3rd. The tenant space located at 911 East Aurora Road with the property zoning classification B2 Community Shopping District. The applicant is looking to occupy that space with a medical office use. The B2 district does conditionally permit medical offices. Codified Ordinance 116703 C10 identifies as a conditionally permitted use, tracks you back to 113704, which is the conditional zoning certificate chapter section of the code. And so from the perspective of that use, of medical use in that particular building, which was previously Optima Dermatology, there's really no issue with the request. There's just some missing items that are standard with 113704, specifically site plan showing parking for the building and the site, which I presume to not be an issue, being that it was already in medical use, so they are calculated at the same parking space per square foot. So I don't think that's likely an issue, but we still need a site plan that shows the parking, a floor plan, and then hours of operation. The applicant can just explain that tonight. And then would recommend approval of the conditional zoning certificate subject to administrative acceptance and review of those items.
All right, thank you. Nina, do you have anything?
No, I don't, thank you.
Joe? Fire? No. What about you guys? You have questions?
I have no questions.
I have no questions.
I guess real quick, just the 2-minute overview of business, just curious.
For sure.
There you go. So IV hydration is kind of a growing thing, not so much in Ohio, but down south and out west. It's also not really regulated right now. So we signed with Prime IV because it's a national franchise and they are super strict on protocols. So being that we grew up here, graduated from here, it's kind of the safest. And if there is going to be anything, we'd rather it be us and bring the safest option to the community. So we're regulated by Ohio Pharmacy Board. We received a TDD license, passed, good there. Corporate standards were good as well. So our staff is all registered nurses, overseen by medical director. But yeah, I mean, vitamin nutrients, everyone is usually vitamin deficient, and when you take it orally, you get about 20% of that. So with IV hydration, you get parking lot, we have a floor plan and our hours of operation as well. And we have a- If that's okay.
We can just give it to Susan for the record.
But we just specifically do intravenous vitamin therapy. A lot of these other clinics, they are like estheticians, they do Botox and things like that. We just kind of stay in that lane and specialize in that area.
Okay. All right, anything else? I guess, so yeah, so there's the things, and, you know, this will be administrative review, so we can pass that on, they may or may not need more information. What are the hours of operations, what are your?
Right now, we're Tuesday through Friday, 10 to 6, Saturday, 10 to 4, and Sunday, 10 to 2.
Those are subject to change, and would you guys like to be informed of that when they do? Or
I would say as long as it doesn't become a 24-hour operation, if it becomes a 24-hour operation, the city would want to know about that, reevaluate your conditional zoning certificate.
Never will be, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the space was medical, that's what drew us to it. It was the perfect layout for us.
Because I just figured that you guys do much inside besides change the sign, and I was like,
And
it was it
that's a
all.
lot of stuff, eh?
Good.
So, we did have our sign approved, so our new sign is on the building. That was approved back in May. So that's now installed, we're ready to rock and roll.
Okay. All right, well, I will make a motion to approve the conditional zoning certificate, subject to administrative acceptance and review of the site plan for parking, the floor plan, and the hours of operation. Is there a second?
I'd second that.
Mr. France, does that sound?
Good.
All right. Any other comments? All in favor? Aye. All right, I can pass this back to Susan. It'd be great.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Love to have you out, even before you over.
Have a good evening.
All right, you
Thanks,
guys too.
Thanks, guys.
Next, signorama with the orchid sign.
Exactly right. It's not that, it's not that, it's
Good.
Yeah.
So this one, it's purchased.
Yeah, actually, it was purchased longer than I thought it was. A year or two, I guess.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So,
The owner is still Mike, Grace. Yeah, I'm sorry. Mike Grace. Grace, that's right. He's still the owner of the building.
okay. Okay, so it's just a signage change.
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. France, you want to go over your comments on the signage?
Yeah, my memo dated July 4th, the applicant is requesting a signage change for the more seasoned veterans or veteran on the planning commission who remembers this initially. It had a big giant ant on the building. I thought it was kind of cute. But section 117903F2 does permit 2 square feet of identification signage for each lineal foot of building frontage. In this instance, their building frontage by 85 feet, which entitles to approximately 170 square feet. The Orkin portion of the sign is about 31.35 square feet. What's unknown is the word exterminating, which is not being changed. Looks like Joe might have some update here, but as long as it's less than 126 square feet, you're gonna be okay, which I suspect it
Yeah,
is.
it's 33.2 square feet.
Yeah, so in that's the case, and it's less than 126 because the proposal also includes changing out the front spaces of the ground monument sign, which is only about 12 square feet. So, given the information that was submitted here tonight in the record, I recommend approval of the sign.
Okay. Anybody else? You know?
I'm sorry, how many square feet is that sign, you said?
Which one? Up front?
Yeah.
Well, the Orkin sign, the diamond, oblong diamond shaped Orkin sign is 31.3, and the exterminating is 33.2.
Okay, thank you.
So about 65 square feet.
Yeah, total, yeah, if you put it all together.
And then with the ground sign, which is about 12, you're about 9.78 square feet, and you're allowed upwards of 170, so it's acceptable as submitted.
Okay. You guys have anything? All right, you guys have any questions?
I did just have a couple quick questions. So the Orkin signs that are on the garage doors on the side, are those remaining?
I don't even know.
Okay.
I'm not sure if there's to be or not.
Okay.
I just talked to the working people there about changing the front sign and changing out the TNT sign on the building.
Okay.
I wasn't even aware of that. I don't know.
Yeah, so if they have
We
additional,
didn't make this.
yeah, if they have additional signage, they should certainly get a permit for that.
Yeah, I'll pass that along to him.
Okay, where are those?
They're on the garage
On the
doors,
garage
on the side. You can see them from both, so they're going both directions.
I think they're just gonna take it
Were
down.
they working on TNT signs?
They're working actually.
Working on
Yeah,
it?
that's kind of what caught my eye. I was like,
Okay.
Down there.
Yeah.
I guess it doesn't show up on Google.
Yeah, maybe they're newer ones since
Yeah.
it did change to working, but it was on the garage door on each one of the sides.
On Mandor, you?
No, on the big
On
overhead
the big
doors.
overheads?
Yeah, they're
No,
not
they don't
showing
show
up
up.
there
No,
right
they don't
now.
show up, yeah.
I should have snapped a picture, sorry, I just thought.
They probably,
This is all.
sounds like they've got a little bit of signage to spare, but I don't know
Yeah.
if they'll meet code, but they should probably apply for
How much of
it.
it?
Yeah, bench timber. I guess for this, they're probably okay.
I think that's fine. And
I'm
then
okay with it. Front side.
the only other question I had would be, a lot of these other signs, the monument signs, we've been asking for those to be erased, backlit. Are you just changing out?
Yeah, we're just changing, right now they have,
It's a
pan
cabinet
face.
panel?
Yeah, pan face, the polycarbonate sign panels,
Okay.
and we're just taking out the old ones and purchasing polycarbonate signs with their painted logo on the back, on the second surface, it's painted on the back.
Okay.
And, yeah, it's illuminated.
Yeah, and that's why, because it was like for like, I didn't raise that
That's-
issue. I mean, ideally, it'd be great if we could, do something more decorative, but it would require a physical change to the structure, because they're just swapping the faces out. And then with regard to this new information about the signage, I think the administration would like to see this conditioned on either they seek a permit or remove them.
That's what I was
Those,
gonna recommend.
the garage door
The
signs.
garage door signs, any additional signage that's on the building.
And you can have, on a different elevation, you can have a wall sign. Every elevation is entitled to one. Sounds like there might be two on that elevation, which is a violation of the code, and it doesn't have a permit. So I think the administration would like to see a condition on
Good,
that.
right.
Okay.
Just gotta do-
Yeah, I'll go ahead and make that motion. Anything else from anybody?
No, no,
Okay, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve the submittal as supplied to us with the additional information of the exterminating sign size of being 33.2 square feet and the Orkin being 31.3, with the condition that the additional signage that is on the side of the building, both sides of the building, either be permitted appropriately or be removed.
Second that.
So would they be able to have, you said there's 3 signs, is that what you saw, the signs?
There's signs on the garage door, and I think there were signs on like up toward the main entrance on that one side as well. So I think on the one side there is technically 2 or 3
Is
signs.
quantity an issue, or just is the size requirement an issue then?
I think you're only allowed, correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, but one sign
One side.
per side,
Okay.
and then there's the size that comes into play as well. I'm guessing that what I saw was size-wise you'd be fine. It's more of the multiple signs on the one side.
Okay.
But somebody should confirm and supply that information to the building department.
Okay.
We can ask the administration about that.
All right.
What their requirements exactly.
Okay.
They have it on the code. All right, so we got a motion and a second.
Can you
Oh, yes.
repeat the last part of that? Signage on the side of the building be?
Either removed or the information provided on size and location of the building.
Please, I think you said permitted properly.
Permitted property, yeah, permitted property on the side of the building. So it's a condition that either need to remove it or
Okay.
decide you want to.
Got it.
So you would have to go through the whole process here again.
Probably to get those either permitted properly or maybe tell them, you know, they're not gonna be permitted, so you probably have to take it back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's how I just, if I may, Mr. Chairman?
Please do.
Just to be very clear, so what I think what the administration is saying and the commission is concurring is that this permit will not be issued until they cure their violation.
Okay.
The violation being there's signs that were put up without a permit. They may be fine, we don't know, but they need to seek a permit. To get a permit, it has to come back to this commission. So they'll be at a stalemate until they make it right.
But they're, in the next meeting is August?
Yes.
Well, they can remove them.
Yeah.
If they remove them, they'll be
Oh,
okay.
that's fine.
And then they could just
Yeah.
apply for when they want to put them on.
Back up again, okay. That's,
But for the city, you know, there has to be some, for the city, there has to be some hammer and nail.
right, right.
And in this instance, it's this approval, and it's a fair compromise.
No problem. Yep, I understand. I didn't know they were there.
Could we approve their application if they take the sign?
Yes, it is
Yeah,
approved.
it's a condition that either needs to be removed
Or
or,
what you want to do?
Okay.
If we take the zoning sign down temporarily,
Yeah.
we can
Yeah.
you want to
That makes no sense.
Yeah, yeah.
That's easier.
Yeah, definitely. All right.
Okay.
Thank you
Thank you.
much.
Thank
All
you.
right, have a good night.
Let's go.
Next is Sonida Living, Senior Living.
how are you?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I don't, did you take a roll call?
Yes.
You did? No.
What's the beginning?
Just now, I didn't
Yeah.
hear you.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't
at the
think
end of
you
it?
didn't have, you had a motion,
Oh,
but you didn't take a roll call.
Oh, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, yeah. I think we got some discussion. Thank you.
Totally on board.
I thought you meant, beginning.
You're too good, man.
Thank you. All right, just what, I know we met, last month?
Last month.
And then give us an overview of what you decided.
Okay, so what we decided, we presented two options. We are using the existing monument and only changing that middle section. So it will be an aluminum like pan face that's gonna go over that stonework. Their first recommendation is the four-color sign. And then the second one is just, the tan color with the black lettering. But they like the colored one because it does match the other location that got approved a couple months ago. Please.
All right. Chris, you got comments?
Yeah, so I think they did a nice job and appreciative working with the planning commission. You should never give me choices.
I know.
My strong preference would be the second choice, the black lettering, the more neutral approach, because I do think it complements the existing bricks around better than the color version, but it's up to, ultimately to the commission.
Besides that, you're okay with everything
Yeah,
else?
yeah, I think you guys did a great job. Appreciate it.
Anybody else? Or, you know?
We're good. Thank
Okay.
you. Yep.
What do you guys,
I appreciate you reusing this with the sign. Only comment I would have is I do agree with Mr. Franz in terms of the black and white. However, I will state that to keep it somewhat tied to the other sign, the two, are those like leaves up at the top or?
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with those two being colored. I think just the purple band at the bottom is a little too much. So I feel that to help kind of
third option?
compromise with the third option, that removal of changing that bottom band to just be the black and then just give you the two colors up top, I think would look really nice. I think it helps mute it down a little bit because the bottom of that just really pops, but it still gives you at least your branding.
I kind of like that idea. I hadn't thought about that. So Tony, does that make
So
sense?
was this your choice, this one here?
And, that one.
Yeah. I have no problem with that whatsoever. And as you can see, and I live right next door to the place, and it's very difficult to see this thing at all. So either one I could find, but I go along with the majority of boards members, which are two others.
Okay.
And whatever they want to do, it's fine. But I would go along with yours too.
Well, do you want to make a motion?
Sure, I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion that we approve with just a few minor modifications, that it's a hybrid of option number 1 and number 2, that the leaves up at the top of the sign are permitted to be the teal and the purple color, and the band at the bottom with the address just be changed to be the black lettering as it's shown in option number 2.
I'll second that. Susan, did you get that?
The leaks are permitted at the top to be purple, and the band at the bottom was changed to black.
Yes, the purple and the teal color.
No, there's no band at the bottom.
The two colors that are at the
Yeah.
top, or the two leaves are at the top, one being the teal and the other one being the purple, and the band at the bottom just being the black lettering and no purple band.
Think it'll be okay?
Fair enough, yes.
Okay. All right.
Thank
All in
you.
favor?
Thank you very
All right.
much.
Yes, appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, BB Theater.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
You guys.
All right, so you've got some revised signage.
Revised signage, correct. And then we also submitted the architectural drawings revision for the front to add the screen wall.
So did you do that, when did you do that? Because that wasn't part of,
We submitted it with the resubmittal of the signage.
so I don't see that. What we got was here, show you.
Right,
So
yeah, I saw the, and we had talked to the office and we were under the impression that the screen wall was on the agenda for tonight, even though it wasn't on the packet.
Okay, so do you have any, you didn't submit plans for that part?
Yes,
correct?
we submitted, the architect sent in,
Did you submit a hard copy?
yes, three copies
If
were
there was a
sent.
hard copy, Brian, you got it.
Was it the same time the other?
Should have come in on the same day, they would have come in separately. And then I emailed everything on Friday
It should
with
have all
both
been.
pieces on there.
So is that part of this whole package?
Yes,
This package?
yes.
And you guys did not see this?
No.
Correct. I think we just got the signage. part.
I didn't see it either.
Do you just know off the top of your head what page specifically?
It would have been, every page in that Delta would have had some reference to that screen wall, but it was, well, I can show you because I have it printed out. A 1.50 was the elevation. She's showing the screen wall.
This one right here.
There's the detail of it.
Yeah, no, it's, I'm sorry, but it's not here. We don't see it.
You don't,
There's a wall detail in there.
This
right.
1.50,
That's what you're looking at.
Yeah, that's the one we're looking at. That's the
Right.
one, yes.
It's not in there.
So it's showing the wall elevation.
This is, they got here, doors that they have,
Yeah, it's
they're putting
not-
up, raised up.
Yeah, there's not a
Along
band
the
of
ramp
retail.
stuff right out front. They just, they haven't shown it on the signage.
So how they correct it.
That's what I guess we're talking about, yeah, it's put a wall.
We're proposing a screen wall to match the existing wall, so, right. So that when you're standing in front of it, it just matches
There'd be doors in the screen wall.
on the, behind the screen
Behind
wall.
the screen wall.
Right. Because currently, the original drawings call for it to be a door and then a ramp down to,
Is there a plan showing that too?
Well, yeah, good idea.
You can
So
see what
that's-
it looks like it's about 7.5 feet tall, is that right?
that's probably about right.
Okay.
7 foot,
Because the
7'8".
doors have already been moved and the former doors have been replaced with CMU. And it looks like it's about 2.5, 3 feet off the ground, so.
How do you get into the building? Are there still doors there?
These are exit doors only.
So the emergency exit or?
Yes.
So this door in the building go this way?
You go into the door and the front door is normal. Right. And these are only replacing, we relocated where the exit was at.
Oh,
And it's,
So we here's a raised
So they
up.
might have seen.
Right.
It's screen door.
And the screen would match there. It's the same block, and it's the same detail.
How do you get out of that? Just what I built. How do you-
It's you've got, you go walkout platform. So it's probably 3, 4 feet wide and the screen starts from there. So the screen is really screening the ramp. It's not,
How high up is that door?
we believe it's about 2.5 feet off the ground, off the existing
Yeah.
elevation.
So your head of that door is somewhere right around 9.5.
Right.
And I don't think the door, because I drove by, and I think I saw one, it doesn't reach up into the red brick.
Does
No,
not-
not even close.
I saw that, because I did see it had been moved since the last meeting.
Yeah. And this is basically, if this is the front of the building, comes out like this. There's a pad here,
Yeah.
the doors here, come down the ramp to the end of it.
Yep.
And this all matches.
That bottom side view.
So theoretically, looking at it from, if you're dead on, you might not even see.
Not
I see a
even see.
section, a little bit of the doors.
I would argue if you're walking in the building, you're on the concrete entry, you're gonna see it. You're gonna
Right.
see the, but if you're parking, if you're sitting in the parking lot, it would make it go away as much as possible.
Yeah.
My own question is, and this is just more of a thought for you guys, should we be raising this up so you don't see the top of that door at all? You're still gonna stay out of that. I don't wanna have it bleed up into this, but
Yeah.
you know where that door
Right.
landed, it was somewhere in here. I don't wanna make this
How, do you know how tall it would have to go to cover the whole door?
It's probably another foot or so.
That's my understanding, it was made to cover the entire.
It doesn't,
Okay.
in this image,
We
it does
talked
not.
about making it half and make it part of the handrail as it went down, but by doing that, you would have a ledge that wouldn't match the front of the building. So we made the whole thing a solid
One
wall
height.
to encase the exit.
We absolutely can. I think one of the ideas of keeping it a little bit lower is just so there was some type of security that you could see in. But even at this point, the way it looks like it's drawn, you'd only see the top of a very tall person's head if that's a 7-foot door. You would never see me. You see the door open, but you'd never see me. But we absolutely can take it up.
I'm almost thinking to do that, because I think it'd have to go more than maybe a foot. If that's 7.5-ish, because the door is 2.5 up.
The door probably-
Right.
Right, as
The door was
Would you give me
visible
those
before.
pictures? I could put
As
whatever
of,
I
as
got.
of right now, the doors, that exterior door is 7 foot tall. So as of right now, if it were sitting on grade where it was before, it would only be covered by 7. It would only, that
2.5
wall would
feet
only come
or
up
something.
there, it's 2.5 inches. So right now, it
There it
technically
is.
needs to go.
Those are both doors and then that secondary picture of the other, so you can see, and I've got enough for everybody. I apologize. I meant these to get to you quicker and.
I mean, if you wouldn't have a problem with doing that, I'd think, yeah, go up, at least, clear the door.
Just clear the door so you don't see the top of that door.
Okay.
I think, because right now, I think it just looks a little awkward. You
Understood.
just see that little top piece, and actually, I think in reality, you would see way more than that, because a typical exterior door is about 7 foot high. If this is 7'6", you're gonna see way more of that door than what this is depicting. But that door realistically is probably more
Take
like
it up
here.
to-
Here, but if we got it up.
So,
Take it all the way up
Yeah.
to this setup, this tier. of
yeah, I
blocks
think that's
right
fine.
above
Then
it.
you're gonna have that stone cap on top, so I think that'll look nice. It'll really kind of make
Then
it
it will match
disappear.
that, right.
Yeah,
Right.
and I think
Is there any emergency concerns?
I was
with
just
this? As
gonna-
long as it's,
I was
the
just gonna
ramp is
say
still
that,
full
yeah.
width.
No,
and
the
everything?
concern was they're taking them away to begin with,
Right.
and any fire code would be against taking away emergency exits.
Yeah, so
So
assuming they're
we're-
staying.
We're happier that they're staying.
Okay,
Right.
as long as that ramp stays the width it's supposed to be.
Right.
And it's got the proper landing, it's okay that it's got a wall, you guys aren't gonna. it's
Well,
not gonna hinder you.
By chance, when the two ramps come down the ground level, how far away are they from each other?
they're on opposite
They're on
sides.
opposite sides of the building.
Oh, they're going,
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
okay.
one's
One's auditorium one, one's auditorium.
one's
sixteen.
over here and one's over here.
Okay.
It's got, you got the entire center mass of the building in the middle.
Mr. Chairman, one concern that I would have would be, you know, you have a regular light on the outside of the door, and you also have an emergency light. Now, the emergency light has to illuminate the path of egress, which will be not only the ramp, but also you have to illuminate on the other side. So that has to be installed high enough above the wall, so not only you project your lighting on the ramp, but also on the other side of the ramp.
At the end of the ramp, he's saying.
At the end of the ramp.
Right.
Okay.
So if the wall is higher than where the emergency pack is gonna be, you're gonna have a
Now, the
problem.
emergency
because-
pack is showing it, we just move it. It just has
Oh,
to be
you did
moved in,
remove
but
it,
it would be
okay.
relocated over here. So we can take it,
It's gonna have to be higher,
right,
yeah, right. But
so
it
we could take it up to the,
to the brick, right?
to the brick or just below the brick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that sound reasonable to you?
No, it sounds like a good idea.
I think it's kind of what we talked about, you know, last meeting, like, it's kind of what we were anticipating, matching
Right.
it so that you do the best you can.
It goes away
It's
as
gotta
much
be
as
there in the
possible.
front for emergency, I
Right.
would not like to see that go away. As much as, yeah, having a full blown review and Mr. France taking a full look at it, you know, but barring that, I think the idea is basically what we want, and I think, you know, or at least what we were thinking, I don't know if there a whole lot could change with it.
No.
It matches that back wall material wise, let's cover the full door, make sure you make, you know, these guys happy with the lighting of
Right.
the area, if you've got to add a second light for something. I know
Sure.
you guys, it sounds like you guys would just do it. That's not something we have to necessarily approve.
We can approve it subject to administrative approval, I think.
Yeah, or subject to, you know, the wall, at least the height of the door,
Right.
and,
If the administration has heard this, they can
Yeah.
monitor this, make sure it's done that way.
The issue we may have is that they may install the emergency light now, and they're not even gonna be aware that you're gonna have a wall there, so, you know, I think there's gotta be some kind of communication there that, you know, we know where how high the wall is gonna be, so emergency light and the exit light, you're about that.
I agree with you. I think I'd take it to this very top banding and have them move a light there and then possibly put a light down
Okay.
at the bottom of the ramp. Make sure we have coverage.
I was gonna ask that if you would just maybe mind putting one down a little further, I think, to just help keep that illumination all the
Sure.
way through that.
Sure.
Cause I don't think you're gonna, I don't, probably
probably
think
just
you're wrong.
put this one on.
I don't think it's gonna throw far enough.
Well, we could look at
Yeah, maybe you just.
leaving it there if it
Yeah.
gives us the coverage we need between the two of them. My gut feeling looking at the pictures is those would be too far apart.
Yeah.
But we could,
Is it going this?
I understand what you guys are wanting to accomplish and that's, we'll make it happen.
Yeah,
Or Jim will make it happen, one of the two.
It was here,
What's the length of the ramp?
24
They're
feet.
both, there's two of them, right? One on
Right.
each side, what's the length?
Would have to be inch to foot, I don't remember off
Be
the top of my head.
24 feet.
Plus the 5-foot landing up at the top, so 39, almost 30 feet long.
Yeah, my inclination, in just talking about it more, is to have a couple trees put in, 2 or 3 trees per ramp. It's easy to cut out the concrete, put in a grate, and put some trees, and it'll help break up that. I know what you have to do it, I get it.
Right.
But I also think it's gonna stick out a bit too, so perhaps some trees would, kind of break up that massing a bit. And it's not that hard to do.
No, I'm not, we're now into a matter of time where I've got to get all of this done. We've already got the brick guy or the mortar guy the masonry guy to mobilize on that, but then it's now cut out, get the tree. I understand what you're saying, I'm now running into, we keep adding things to what needs to be done here, and I'm just trying to figure out the best way to proceed. I mean, can we do all of that administratively? I'm trying to avoid having to reappear in August.
Oh yeah, no, they're
You
suggesting
wouldn't have to
that.
come back.
I don't
here.
think you need to come back
Yeah,
here.
they're suggesting as administrative approval.
Right.
Just a conditional that that it be raised up to the top
Mhm.
or higher, add the 2 lights, or have the light coverage, and then just add a couple of trees.
Okay.
And I think that can all fall into our approval of this.
Why don't you go for it again? Try for it.
All right. Susan, I'll try to kind of talk towards you. I'll make a motion that we didn't even talk signage, actually. We need to go back to that.
Okay, the
It
issue
makes it simple, the signage
back
can
a
form.
second.
know if you were gonna do them
Time
separate or
out
not.
on, well, we can. I have no problem with that.
Maybe let's do that.
Let's do that because they are
we should
2
be-
separate things. Okay, so, all right, yes, I'll make a motion that we approve with some modifications, the drawing that was submitted to us on A 1.50 for the new ramp, that the ramp be raised to be above the new door that's been placed in and raised up. That the egress lighting be placed above the door along with an additional one if needed to meet the lighting requirements for the ramp. And that some additional landscaping such as trees be placed in front of the ramp. Maybe 1 tree and some like shrubbery on the lower parts of it or something like that, or do you want to?
Yeah, I think it's probably 2 to 3 trees. If
Okay.
it's 30 feet.
Okay, yeah, that's true,
But
okay.
we can, I think your motion included administrative review of
I
that.
was just gonna say,
With that.
administrative approval.
Right. And assume somewhere there is a list of approved trees from Macedonia, Ohio.
We can talk about that.
Yeah, I'll second that. All right. Seemed like everything. All right, any more discussion? The other thing is, I think in there you might have raising the wall.
I did mention raising the wall to be above the door.
I think you might have called it real or something.
Oh,
But it-
raise the wall, yeah.
Mr. Chair, one more comment.
Sorry.
Before we can issue a permit, we need the permission from the building owner that he allows those signs to go on your building, on the
Yes.
building. Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
And then Susan, I'll.
They were emailing me today, they wanted more signage.
Picture.
And I just replied back 1 line, we're working on it, we'll get as much signage as we can get.
Okay.
And,
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so now the sign, Ms. France, you want to go over the actual report? Did you put me up?
Yeah, so report dated July 5th, and the applicant has, let's say, significantly reduced the signage. So now there's just 2 signs, one in the front elevation, one in the rear, and they're about 100 and close to 147 square feet each. And that is with the incidental letter that extends to about 4.58 feet in height. So combined, it's less than 300 square feet, and you may remember that they're entitled to nearly 1,100 square feet. So plenty of area and compliance, so would recommend approval of the area, but just a few minor items. I'm sure you saw the report, just the returns and trim cap have to be bronze, not
Right.
black, which is
So,
probably is a minor detail.
sign guy had no issues with that, and I hoped he would reissue a new set of drawings, same way with the 5 inches.
Yeah, okay, so
But if
those.
we can do that administratively,
That's the recommendation,
Right.
is its approval subject to administrative confirmation of the trim caps and returns being bronze, and then the letter can depth at 5 inches.
All right, anybody else have any thoughts? Commission? You guys good with that?
That's right.
All right, well, good. I'll make a motion to approve the plan submitted with 2 conditions, that the trim cap and returns must be bronze, and confirmation of the depth of letter not to exceed 5 inches. To be reviewed administratively.
I'll second.
All right, Susan, you got all that?
Not to exceed 5 inches.
Correct. All right, all in favor? Aye. All right, good.
Thank you.
What's, I forget, what's the timeline on this?
We'd love to be open mid to late August, but
You never know.
Aye.
That's
I'd love to lose about 20 pounds in that same period of time. And
So we set a date today tentatively for the 27th,
right.
hopefully to get finals inspections called in by the 19th of August to try and open by then, so.
But
we
a
have
lot
past
of little
nights.
things have to go. I'm aligned into pessimist. I'm not the one else to tell the owner we had hit the date.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Next is the Valley View Road, Twinsburg Road PUD. Go, Vince.
How you doing?
Good, how are you? So it sounds like you met with the city and staff at least once, if not more.
Conversations and in person.
Good, good, good. Mr. France, you want to go over your thoughts on all that stuff?
Sure, yeah, my report dated July 5th, and as the applicant stated, we did have a in-person meeting to talk about the methodology of determining the number of units in any given acre. And then when the plans were reissued, the applicant and I did talk about just a few minor issues that are noted in the report, just so I wasn't catching them off guard with a few items. So I'll go through the report. As the Planning Commission remembers, this is a request for a planned unit development that's essentially an overlay planned unit development. It's approved as a conditional zoning certificate by the Planning Commission and then confirmed by a majority of council. So that is something that will need to occur. How administratively that goes about, but I'm sure there's legislation that gets introduced to council to deal with that piece of it. So as I just walk through some of the items, the analysis of section 116202A, 5 of the code, as well as the conditional zoning certificate chapter of the code. So the first issue that I speak to is the site data table. You remember at the last time we spoke about this, there was some conversation about what's the correct number to use for the basis of determining the number of total units permissible based on the acreage involved. And so the applicant, it would suggest the applicant use the deed and pull the acreage off the deed, because the next step will be confirmation with site survey. But, you know, to spend the 15 grand roughly that's gonna cost to do that, the basis now will just, at the start, will be based on the deed, and so that's what's been used. And that turns out to be 58.44 units, and as I had stated in my first item, in that instance, you would round down to 58 versus 59. There's 59 shown on the plan. It'll likely potentially change. The applicant stated at the last meeting, will likely again state today, there's potentially some wetlands that are involved that will maybe impact the total number of units. So as long as it doesn't exceed 58, we'll be okay. Then regarding the number of units in any given acre, you can see that's found on sheet 2 of 3 of the submittal. And actually, I'm sorry, 3 of 3. And there's quadrants that have been set up as squares. And so the methodology that was determined from our meeting was essentially it's reasonable to start in the extreme northwest corner where Deer Run Drive hits the public road, and from there, work out squares basically throughout the development. And so with that said, compliance is achieved using that methodology. And so if the commission concurs, then that issue is put to rest. Item number 3, as it relates to, this was a carryover from the previous comment, section 113704 discusses that the streets have to be shown on the conditional zoning certificate plan. They are shown, and the intent, unless we hear different tonight, is to phase the streets. And so at the end of the first phase, lot 8 terminates without some sort of, let's call it T-turnaround or temporary cul-de-sac. So that was something I raised at the last meeting. I know in a telephone conversation with the applicant, he suggested maybe he'll put lot 8 into a different phase and just terminate there, where you come around Fawn Trail then into the cul-de-sac, which would be acceptable, because then safety services would be able to use Fawn Trail as their turnaround in the cul-de-sac. But if 8 remains, you need to do some sort of T-turnaround or something for safety services. So that's up to the applicant to kind of talk through that with the commission tonight. Regarding the setbacks, the 25-foot front yard setback was accepted by the commission at the May meeting, so there's no need to do anything with regard to that. I just left it as a carryover item, just because I feel like sometimes items tend to kind of fall off and get forgotten about. So that was already approved by the commission, but at the last meeting there was a lot of discussion about 116305 G2, which requires 30 feet between buildings, and the submittal is to have 15 feet between buildings, or 7.5 foot side yard setback per unit. And there was a lot of discussion about that. The applicant did some research, had some public records requests. I went back and looked at old data within my files that go back to 98 roughly. And you'll note that in 2006, a month before I started here at the city, there was a determination that 113705 D4 A through C of the code provides the commission with some flexibility to accept reduced setbacks for residential PUDs. It doesn't say specifically residential PUDs, but it does have a sort of a flexibility clause, and it was applied to the PUDs at the time, provided essentially that the design results in a better plan. That interpretation has been applied historically based on our record search to several PUDs in the past, and 15 feet was often the number that was settled on, so 7.5 foot side yard setbacks between units. So with that said, I'm comfortable with that that's been done in the past. It was a determination that was made. If the commission is comfortable with it, I am as well. I mean, 7.5 feet between as a side yard setback is not unheard of, especially on smaller footprint lots. So that, again, that'd be if the commission's comfortable with that. And then the 116305H1 does require that private streets effectively be designed as public streets, requires street trees, lights, curbs, sidewalks. Sidewalks and curbs can be waived by the planning commission and city council, provided adequate alternative means for drainage and pedestrian movement is provided. The commission previously had said, opined that sidewalks were fine to eliminate. I do think that you have to have some sort of path system, some sort of pedestrian system as part of the development. So I just recommend that be something that's considered for the open space area, some sort of pedestrian path system, since you're not going to have sidewalks. And then some of these other items are still remain, which is the preliminary building architecture, street lights, the things that ultimately are part of final plan approval. Those need to be submitted at a later time with the final plan approval. So I think for the standpoint of tonight, I think the preliminary plan approval is appropriate. I think the applicant's in the right direction. He did take Fawn Trail, which by the way was another big change from the last plan. That previously Fawn Trail was going out to the public road. It's now cul-de-sac, which was a recommendation that we had spoke to from one of my prior reports. I think that, you know, at the end of the day, my argument or my hypothesis was I think it makes a better development, especially those lots along the Fawn Trail. They become nice cul-de-sac lots. And so the applicant did do that. You'll see that, that's now cul-de-sac. So with that said, I would recommend approval subject to confirmation of the methodology of the number of units in any given acre, using the square starting in the northeast corner or northwest corner of the site, working out to Valley View. Somehow we're dealing with, working through the applicant with this temporary provision, if that lot 8 is going to be part of a future phase, some sort of temporary cul-de-sac or T turnaround. Acceptance of 113705D 4A through C as the provision that allows the flexibility, and accept the 15 feet between units at 7.5 feet per side yard setback. Having the alternative means of pedestrian movement, walking paths within the open space, and sidewalks are considered to be waived. And of course, all of this is subject to city council approval of these items. And then those items for final plan approval would have to be submitted for the next phase, if you will. And I can answer any questions you have.
Okay. Before we move on to Joe's, do you guys have any questions on Brian's stuff?
Well, I guess I have one. I guess the thing about pedestrian movement, there are a lot of developments around here. I'm not sure, looking at the plan, where you'd put the pedestrian movement. I don't quite know it. Normally, they walk down, people walk down the city streets. Anyway, that's the pedestrian movement, because in these housing developments, you can walk on the streets. But I'm not sure where you think that, I don't know what Mr. Koblenz thinks about it, but would it be all right for you to put walkways around there? Do you think it's a great idea or not a good idea?
Well, I mean, after I've thought about it and after we met, my thought was that sidewalks could go like on Northwood, so on one side of the road.
I was gonna ask that question.
Yeah, so, and then even in Spruce Hill Crossing, we put them on the main road to the street, just to the bend, yeah.
Mhm.
But I think that we could, and it probably would help the development out if we, did sidewalks either 1 through 54 and then one side of, Fawn Trail, so.
Well, there's no problem for you, then, it's no problem for me, I just think,
Yeah.
I couldn't envision it, but if you already planned that, I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, it doesn't depict it on the plan, but after I've talked through with Dan, my engineer, he thought that might be just a feature that would be nice to have. Instead of walking trails that, we have some contours in the back of these lots and might make it difficult to get back there. This would be, and it's a big enough development that I think it would benefit from that, so.
Yeah, that's good. I just want to be clear, pedestrian movement doesn't mean necessarily, getting from one sidewalk to another off a public street. It means getting people safely. So if you're not going to have sidewalks that are off of the road, then you would do walking paths. It's not necessarily safe to have people walking on the street. I know that, they probably did that for the last 100 years. But, it's a heightened awareness now, so you get them either onto a dedicated sidewalk or onto a walking paths, a system of just giving people the ability to walk safely around, and people do it on walking. So it's good to hear you're gonna go with the sidewalk at least on one side of the road.
Yeah, I've noticed a lot of communities that didn't have sidewalks have since been adding them, especially in Hudson. That like a lot of developments didn't have them.
Yeah.
And now I'm seeing, there's 3 developments I've gone through recently where they've started putting on one side of the street just because it seems that they're again, it's a safer way to get people around.
Yeah, it seems like overkill to have them on both sides.
I would agree. I don't feel like
Is
they
it
need to be on
more of
both
a
sides.
cost thing or is it a space thing? Like, just read all the this
Well, I was
space.
thinking some of the other developments that, like I brought up before, the setbacks from the road to the
Mhm.
houses was a lot closer.
Yeah,
Like we had Village of Terry somewhere at 19.6 feet, where it was the closest one out of all.
Yeah.
So in this, you know, you guys approved a farther setback, and, you know, with the utility easements you have to put in, I think that's you know, you can't really go any closer. And that gives us some room to put sidewalks in, very similar to what you get with, I think it's Northwood or North Washington.
and I guess that what you're proposing is probably accurate. The other thing I would think is, think about potentially putting them the whole way. Just because if you lived here and you had a dog, like where you walk, okay, you walk it, and you turn around and let's walk back the same way, and then go up to the next one, walk back. Or you can take a nice loop and never, you know, cross the street once, you know, and you could stay on the sidewalk, and it's probably, I don't know how long, you know, is that a half-mile walk, you know, you can have it twice. Just, it might be something, if it's not like, geez, the expense, or it's, I can't squeeze this all in here, or something, but if it's, you're just thinking about it, and maybe it's overkill, I don't know, maybe it's not overkill, just so you could do a nice loop of the whole thing without crossing the road,
Yeah,
or crossing it one time to get back to your house, it might
yeah,
just be nice.
we want it to be a sellable, community, so
Yeah.
definitely look at that.
Something like, you know, at least on one side, like you're saying, or if you decide not to do that, but it sounds like contractors say, you know, yeah, are you doing something all the way around through the, but that might, it sounds like that might be a challenge to do some kind of loop on the
Yeah, I
outside.
don't know if there's some way we could do some type of an easement where it loops or connects.
I kinda like the
a
sidewalk.
small trail and then connecting, so they do, you know, their own.
But I think what we'd like to see, some kind of thing, either sidewalk or combination sidewalk or the path, right? You know, something provided. And if you're gonna do sidewalk, not saying you have to do the whole thing, but think about it a little bit for the, you know, somebody who does actually just like to walk, you could do a full loop.
Yeah, okay.
I think COVID taught us one thing, people got outside and wanted to move around.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doing it safely and efficiently. I don't know, you know, I didn't actually think about this till we were talking about it now, but, I think Macedonia is considered a rural route on the post office, which means if that's the case, you're gonna have to find a place for your postal boxes. You know, like game box.
Yeah, I don't think they approve anything but game boxes anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if it's not a rural route, they will, right? And I don't think this is a rural route, but they'll call it that.
I dealt with that already.
Yeah.
So.
And maybe it's in those parking spaces. I still have not found anywhere in the code that says you have to have those spaces.
Yeah, we'll have to have it somewhere, yeah.
You had a question?
I did, I had a couple of things just to talk about. So, in regards to, comment number 2 from analysis 116305, with the setback between the units. So something just to consider, and something that I guess I have a little bit of concern with, going down to 15 feet and 7.5 feet on each side, the code now limits the amount of openings that can be in those walls then at that point, unless they become rated. So you're gonna be very limited on the amount of windows or any kind of openings you would be able to have on the sides of the houses. So I guess my concern with taking it down so far would be that you're gonna, like, I feel like we'd be changing off something from an aesthetic standpoint at that time, where you're gonna have just these large blank walls on the sides of houses without windows or with limited amounts of openings in them. So I don't know if you've considered what the plans are gonna start to look like, and I know we're not getting into too much detail on that, but it is something that would be a concern of mine if we do permit going down to 7.5 feet, 15 feet between the units, that we would be limited in terms of what the aesthetics of those houses would look like.
Yeah, I'm not aware of that code, but.
Yeah, it's the-
You know, 10 foot is residential, you can't have, not having fire for walls, anything less than that.
The new code has some different regulations in it now, from like an opening perspective. It limits it like based on a percentage of the wall. So just something to consider, just something I think we should at least think about,
I
so.
mean, so for most of our units, I mean, 'cause we built, 90 units in the Villas of Termina and Spruce Hill, but we put transoms and things that that broke up those walls. And then we've cantilevered some of our walls, so you don't have sheer wall, long walls of just blank siding.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, that, usually you don't want too many windows because you're facing a neighbor's house.
Right. Just something to consider if we're gonna be granting a difference in the setback there. And then the only other question I had was, group N, and again, I'm not sure how this came about, but I counted that there's a total of 8 units in grouping N, not 6. I count 26, 25, 24, 23, 22, 16, 17, and a part of 18. And I think it might just be in terms of like 16 and 18, if they were just to be slid back a little bit, I think would fall within compliance.
Yeah, I guess it's, and we talked about this at the last meeting, and then Brian and I kind of discussed this too, that like really, when you look at 16, really is, I mean, it could be, scooted back, I guess, but,
I think it's just as simple as scooting 16 and 18 back a little bit, and then you're fine.
yeah.
It's
So-
just 2 units.
So
but
I guess the question is, do you want to count the units twice?
I
Guess
guess,
I was wondering, yeah.
well,
Yeah, I get, well,
the way
or
that,
is there a proportion, when does there enough of it?
it's just something I wanted for us to
To
think
count.
about.
Chairman, that's the way the
Talk
table is set up by a percentage.
Yeah, there's a table of
Oh,
this
okay.
by a percentage. And
Yeah.
so like
And it adds up to
16, we might
59.
have, certain, you might only have 3% of that house in that square.
I guess those are the only 2 that I see being an issue. I just would say that I think those 2 just need to be slid back, and then you're fine. And then that way they only truly do fall in one. At least the grouping that you're over in, because all the other ones, there's no issue with.
And it's really just a very minuscule corner of
Right.
16 and 18.
Yeah, what I don't know is then if you scoot back 18, is it gonna go into block H, which only has 3/4 of one unit in it?
Yeah, and I think that's fine then at that point if part of it goes into that, because again, that wouldn't put you over an H.
Is that, so I mean, that's essentially the footprint of the maximum footprint, I guess, so that's the setbacks. Is there gonna be, if 16 was pushed back just a smidge, is that gonna be something that's noticeable looking down the street? I guess or, geez, there's gonna be all kinds of little fluctuations, it depends on what the build,
I think it's gonna depend on the house.
That house could have a notch on the front porch, who knows? If you don't think it's gonna have any major influence on things, maybe you just shift 16 and 18, just a smidge, you're good. And those would probably be the only 2 that.
Those are the only 2.
It could be uniform, the setback from the road.
I guess are those minimums, or are they?
They're minimums.
Yeah, but if you get into a situation where you have a couple oddballs that are further back, it looks
does look-
weird.
it
I think
Yeah.
because they're on the cul-de-sac though, or at least the 18 starting to be on the cul-de-sac, I don't think that's gonna be noticeable or as big of a deal. 16 maybe a little bit, but,
I think it's so negligible.
Why
you wouldn't
16 rather than
notice.
17?
well, because 17 you'd have to push way back, and I'm not asking, that I think would be, pushing 17 that far back would be, then it really would look out of place.
I mean,
Yeah, it's good.
it comes down to the spirit of the code. And I think the spirit of the code is not to cram too many units within any given acre. And if you look at the overall, we have units, H with 1 unit, G, 2 units, all the other units have, 4 units, 3 units, 3 units, 4 units, 5 units. So, and I'm not saying we can't do that, Scott, but I'm saying that it could affect. I don't know what it affects, you approve it that way, and then I find out, well, we have to, push, I don't know how that works.
I think the aesthetics are important too. If you shove one back a little bit, it will look odd
Yeah, but you're not-
compared to your neighbor. And so you have to be real careful jacking them around a bit.
Well, then if we're
For
talking
the
about,
aesthetics.
if we're talking about aesthetics, then it comes down to also the fact of the units then being closer together and having large expansive walls of just blank because of the code requirements or because of the building code. So I mean, if we're talking aesthetics there, then we've also got to look at the aesthetics of the units being close together in terms of 15 feet. So
Well,
that we,
we've allowed that around Macedonia though, because I live in one, so I know how that works. No, they've allowed that variation for PUDs, I guess.
Yeah, and I don't know, talking about the size, that you're gonna have to limit stuff. Probably 90% of the houses in the city have boring sides. There's nothing on anybody's side, maybe once in a while you see a window, but for the most part, it's just, you're looking at the front, you're looking at the back. And that's all anybody, really sees, or that's anybody seems to do anything with. So I understand the concern, but
but I think it goes back to this code section that says that planning commission flexibility to accept reduced setbacks for residential PUDs provided essentially the design results in a better plan, which I think at that point, if we're talking about it, that results in a better plan, we may be compromising the design aesthetics of a home by doing that.
I guess it's hard to say what a better plan is. I mean, is a better plan more units? I mean, depends on who it is to you. That's a better plan for Chris, I'm sure, is more,
Yeah.
but, yeah. It's a better plan, yeah. It's less yard, less, is that better? I guess
Yeah, I mean, one thing I feel good about is when you look at the overall, I mean, again, if it comes down to pushing 2 units back and then they're not aligned, it doesn't matter to me. I don't have to look at it. I mean, I hate to be that way, but to me, that's,
If they were on the straightaway, I would say don't. I mean, I would definitely agree that I think from an aesthetic standpoint, you would really notice it. If it were like, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, something like that around the other side of the street. But I think since you already start to curve there a little bit, pushing them back a little bit from a staggering standpoint isn't going to be that, it's going to be negligible or not noticeable. And that's just my opinion.
And I don't think it's absolutely necessary. I go along with
do
what you
whatever
like.
the commission.
Yeah, and I think, Mr. France, your basic terms was, it was pretty minimal. He moved enough stuff around, kind of followed the guides. He's pretty much there. I mean, it looks like, I'm guessing you gave up some stuff. You did have to do a little bit of shuffling and to get this to mostly work out.
So I took 2
Lost
units
spots.
out of K.
Yeah, I was gonna say, K lost units.
Had 8 units, and you say, well, that's where you have one over what we're allowed in, but I think we will lose, I don't know this for sure, we're just starting looking at the, like 50, 51, there might be, like 4 or 5, so I don't know how that will work out, but, that I think I'd be lucky to hit the 58, but,
Right.
so, we approve it at 58, and, we took out 2 that we could have, if we ended up at 56, we took out 2 units that we could have, would have been in that block. But, again, I'm not gonna, like to not have to come back for pushing.
I don't think you'd
No.
have to come back.
No.
for it.
2 units back 3 feet, so.
No, we wouldn't.
I don't think it's necessary.
I don't think
I
we
think
would.
you're moving it as is.
We wouldn't ask you
You're
to
gonna
go
do
back.
that, that's fine, you would do it during final plan. I mean,
Yeah.
all of this is predicated on, you have to go get surveyed.
Yeah.
You have to confirm your wetlands. This plan will probably change some.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this just gives you the general
Yeah.
marching orders that it's generally okay, be mindful of these issues. I think Mr. Walhurst brings up a good point. I understand that typically in Macedonia, the sides are like, but I'm not sure that's what we want to necessarily strive for either. So we're not talking maybe all kind of windows and things, but there's, you're a builder, there's all kind of ways to bump out sides and add architectural depth to a building that aren't really super costly, that'll just make a big difference, especially when they're so close together.
Yeah, and I think that's something that during final plan approval, when we have a set of plans.
Yeah, that makes sense.
or,
I just wanted to
that
bring
we
it
can-
up.
We can bring it, and then we can, I'm gonna dive into it, I've never heard of this, so.
Yeah, there's,
That's interesting.
I actually meant to write the section
Yeah.
down. I looked at it like last week.
Yeah, if
and-
you could email me, that'd be
Mhm.
great.
Yeah, of course.
I'd like to know that. Yeah, so.
So I guess, well, I guess, let's, so we've got a couple of things there. Mr. July, would you?
Yes, I'll try to be a little easier. This one definitely should be easier. All right, Chris, I'll just run down this real quick. A lot of these are all good. 24 feet pavement width is good. Typical pavement section looks good. Riparian setbacks not labeled on the drawing, not a big deal. It doesn't affect, it's not a problem. You're not working in the setback, so that's not an issue. We do need the updated wetlands delineation. Sounds like you're already working on it. Perfect, that's good. You got 2 areas set aside for your stormwater detention ponds. Thank you. Those calculations will come along in the final submittal, and we'll do the standard stormwater inspection and maintenance agreement. We do ask the sanitary sewer line under Twinsburg Road going by bore. Private utilities to be installed in conduit, please, not direct bury. Street lights look good that you've laid out there. And when we get to this point in a little bit, we'll do the usual development agreement through our law director. So
Okay.
that's really all I got. I mean, otherwise, I'm comfortable with the planning commission, at least from an engineering point of view. I'm comfortable with the planning commission giving an approval. We can handle the rest of the engineering items administratively.
Okay.
The one item on lot 8, I
Yes.
can go in phase 2, that's not.
Okay.
I know like at Spruce Hill, we had 3 lots in this situation, and we just dead-ended it. And just when we designed it, I'm like, well, it's so close, it's nice to have a little street there where the construction traffic can turn around.
Yeah.
So that's why I'd like to see it extended, but if I have to go into a whole thing to turn a truck around, it's only 20 feet, so.
Just hold off on that one, and that is where you're thinking. Okay.
Yeah, we'll just run that thing.
Carter, do you have any concerns? No? You're good? Okay. So I guess, looking back at my notes here, so the 6 units per acre, I guess, I think in general, we're okay with what you did. There might be some adjustments that you may want to do for final approval, but I think you're gonna be able to achieve what you're doing. So whether that's bump a couple of them a little bit, or you may end up, that whole layout may get moved a little bit. But I guess in general, I think,
I'd go along with the preliminary plan approval.
you're close enough that those, you can get those figured out. The 7.5 foot side yard setback, I think will be okay, because I guess I won't say it would be okay. Recognize that that's what's been going on in the past. I think as Mr. Wallenhurst said, we're gonna be looking at those sides. Yeah, and he's right, just because there's a lot of houses with boring sides doesn't mean that we should accept that here. So we'll be looking for something, but kind of, you may want to dig into that code a little bit and see if you're going to be able to do what you want to do. That change. So we talked about the sidewalks, whatever you decide to do with that. Talked about Unit 8, recognize the cul-de-sac, Fawn Trail. So I guess, were there any other issues that we didn't discuss that we didn't kind of give resolution to? I think he's got some directions. So do we need to list all those things out in the motion?
I don't think that can hurt, I would do that, but it just, going back to the sidewalk thing, so, you know, 116305H1, it does require that these private streets be designed as though they're public, which requires sidewalks, curbs. So you would want to, if your intent is to waive those, which I think it is, you need to be explicit in that, but if there's this provision of sidewalk on one side of the road, then be explicit in that, otherwise you need to do some kind of walking paths. You know, just walking out on a narrow street is not what the code wants.
Yeah, I mean, I would be, you could say tonight, I'd approve it with sidewalks on one side of the street, and if, I'll look into the, or whoever.
Yeah.
Have it on
Think
two
about
sides.
doing both sides, but as a
Definitely,
minimum.
yeah,
Okay.
we'll look into that. So,
See, Mr. French, you think, pointing out, your, reference your memo, but the one that specifically needs to be pointed out is relieving them from the sidewalks as part of the standard street, but with allowing,
I think
At a
I
minimum,
think
one side of the
right on
road.
one side of the road.
I think you've agreed to sidewalks at least on one side of the road, correct? So I
Yes.
think we can state that as part of our approval, that,
Yes,
okay.
yeah, just making sure
Just
that's the
make sure
one
you-
thing that needs to.
Yeah, you need to be
definitely-
explicit, because this is gonna go to council, and council needs to agree or do something different. I would probably say they're gonna agree, it would be my guess.
Yeah.
Because you guys are the, you know, sort of the authority over these things, but I'd just be explicit in what the standard is that's gonna go to council, because, again, this has to be approved as a conditional use, conditional zoning certificate confirmed by a majority of council, and it's gonna be through some kind of legislation,
Yeah, and the more specific, firm information
the
that
better.
can be provided to council, yeah, the better it is, the easier it is for them to make their decision. You know, if it's left a little bit up in the air, then there might be more discussion than voting.
Yeah, of course, you're gonna need to update the plan, because that will be an exhibit, as Joe said, there's a development agreement, but effectively, you're gonna have that now. It would be an exhibit to whatever legislation, at least mine, I would envision it's an exhibit to legislation that goes to council.
okay.
So again, they're gonna be explicit in what the direction is, you need to then turn it into the exhibit for the
Show
legislation.
the sidewalks, move lot 8.
Yep.
We'll move lot 16 and 18 back, and, what else?
Keep your cul-de-sac that length, and the commission is gonna explicitly state that length, that additional length is acceptable.
Okay.
And then everything's subject to the requirements for final plan approval.
Yep. Okay.
I guess at the end of the day, I'll kind of just jump, not to beat on 16 and 18, but if something shifts another way, and like those two fall, like another way, something falls out of there, I'm fine with that. I have no issue with like how that ends up shaking out, I guess, so to say. If something, when you go to do this all again, and something kicks this way a little bit, and
That's what I don't know.
I know,
It's not the
it's-
3 feet.
I know,
It's not knowing what's back.
I get it,
Yeah.
I get it. So I just want to let you know that it doesn't have to be 16 and 18 if something ends up shifting another way and it pushes two of them further, which those are the two I just saw as being the easiest ones to do,
Yeah,
but I'm not going to specifically state that they have to be.
somewhere we got .9 from the previous 11-acre approval. We had .9 of wetlands back in here. So I don't know how that affects, that.
It might affect
so,
another one, so, yeah.
But you're literally talking 8 feet probably of changing the lots and regs.
Yeah, it does, in my mind, it raises an interesting question. So what's your timetable?
It depends on getting our report out and sewer approvals and probably breaking ground late winter,
Okay.
spring, yeah.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
because, you gotta go through the legislative process, which I think I had mentioned to you when we talked. I don't know if the city has a provision, like, from a charter perspective, that requires 3 readings, or if they can, and I don't even know if they pass things in emergency, or I just don't have a sense of that. So, I would plan it out worst case scenario, all 3 reads. And as you think through that, that's a time consuming process as it relates to what are you doing on your end, the practical side, which is the
Yeah.
Army Corps, the survey. I mean, I think my gut feeling is you're gonna have to bite the proverbial bullet and start drawing down the money on some of these more advanced studies.
If we get, if I get approval tonight, we're getting a site survey
Yeah.
in the next 3 weeks. And wetland mapping was done this week, so,
Good.
or last week, I think, so.
And I only say that with the caveat that no matter what comes out of here, you still have to get counsel as to
Yeah.
approve it. So they could, in theory, they could overturn the
Uh-huh.
planning commission. I don't know why they would, but
Yeah.
I'm just putting it out there. It's a little bit of a risk for you.
At that point,
Life's a risk.
life's a risk, yeah.
Yeah.
So even though we did approve that additional length on the cul-de-sac at the May meeting, do you think we should specifically mention it again?
Yeah, just reiterate
Okay.
it. Yeah, because, I think there was another item, right, that you already accepted.
Yeah, it was
The 25?
25-foot setback in
Yeah.
the front.
I just reiterate it. These things tend to get lost in translation over time, so. I can tell you, looking back to 98, reiterate it, please. The stuff gets lost.
Yeah.
All right, I'll take a stab at this, and you guys can beat it up after. All right, make a motion for preliminary plan approval with the following conditions. 25-foot front yard setback as approved at the May meeting. The additional cul-de-sac length is acceptable as approved at the May meeting. And in terms of 1163.05 H1, we would waive the full sidewalk requirement and allow a minimum of sidewalks on one side of the roads. Susan, did you get all that? All right, that's my motion. Is there a second? Then we can talk about it.
We need to also approve the 15, or the 15-foot
Okay.
setback between the homes, so 7.5 feet each one.
All right, so Susan, I'll add to the motion, allowing, allowing the 7.5-foot side yard setbacks.
Yeah.
Which results in 15 feet between buildings, between homes.
And then just to investigate unit or block N, we won't stipulate how that's done. I don't have a problem with, unless
I
you
can't
guys
hear
don't want to
that.
put that in there.
Let's not.
Okay.
Okay, so is there a second on that? Then we can talk.
What, the 7.5 foot side?
Yeah, that's
I'd
included.
second that.
Okay, so it's got all those 4 things.
Yeah.
I'm thinking I think we've asked him to fix that one issue.
Okay.
He'll do that, and then if something completely shuffles around, changes, we'll send it. So, Mr. France, did we miss anything?
I think I heard you also, in that motion, accept the 58 units, not 59, because it works out to be 58.44, and you round down in that instance. That was part of your motion, I'm pretty sure?
Yes.
And then you also accepted the methodology to determine the maximum density in any given acre as shown on sheet 3 of 3 on the plan submittal. That, I'm pretty sure I heard you include that, as well as that this requires council authorization pursuant to 1163.05H1, because it's a conditionally permitted use. I think I heard you also include that, as well as all the remaining items for final plan approval as articulated in the engineer and city planner's memo.
I heard her say all that too.
I do too.
Good job.
Susan, did you catch me saying all that?
Yeah.
Good job. All right, so that's all the motion. Is there any more discussion on these items? Do you have any questions? Any questions?
Good.
All right,
I'd second that one.
all right.
The entire one.
Oh, you already did, Tony.
It's still seconded.
Oh,
All right.
I thought he had it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Chris.
I believe that is,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
is it.
I'll shoot you.
Does anybody know if they've got vacations for next month or anything?
Thank you.
One thing I did want to bring up before we adjourn, and maybe something might be brought up, Nina, I received an email from Mayor's assistant months ago about trying to get some alternates for planning commission. And I responded back like, okay, you're talking about filling in a spot anytime we have somebody not here, or you're talking about only when we absolutely needed to have a quorum, like we almost needed tonight. If I hadn't come back in time for my trip, we would have only had 2 people, and we would have definitely didn't hear back from her. So I don't know if they're thinking about it, and then they kind of got lost in the shuffle, and it's been months.
I think, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Go ahead.
I think they did do that with BZA, but not with Planning Commission. But that was talk from months ago. My personal opinion is that, especially with BZA, maybe it's a different animal, because, you know, they take cases one at a time, yes or no, you're gone.
Right.
Whereas you guys hear agenda items that come back 2, 3, 4, 5 times over the course of 3, 6, 9, 12 months, you can't shuffle different people in, because the guy wasn't here the previous time.
Somebody might not agree with it.
Somebody, yeah, you're gonna almost restart the process with the applicant every time, you get new people.
Or they gotta sit out because somehow they're involved.
Yeah, so, but I have not, myself, being around here, Susan, you chime in if you feel otherwise, but I haven't heard anything about the alternate thing in a long time. I think it wound up only being BZA, and that came out
Maybe
of
that's
the
why I didn't hear anything.
Charter Review Committee from, 6 months ago.
Okay. For instance, you have.
I don't know if you know anything else.
Oh, yeah, he's like my little mini-me over here, except he's a little taller than me.
I feel the same way. It's kind
I-
of tough to just shove somebody in who hasn't been involved in
Yeah.
meetings.
That was my
And
point,
here's
too.
the middle of an issue, it's bad enough if you came on full-time, but to just drop in for one meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
You're not gonna
if
say-
you had a substitute today, he might not like the way those red lines were drawn that you
Or
guys all
probably
discussed
wouldn't
already.
feel comfortable saying anything either. They'd
Or,
probably
yeah,
just
or
like,
he'd be useless.
"Ugh,
Yeah.
my head's just spinning, I've been to one meeting in 2 years or so, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, I don't know anything about this project. What do you want me to do? That's
Yeah,
what the person
I may
said.
work for another community,
You
and
may.
we had the same exact conversation, and it was my recommendation to have them from the BZA, because they're case by case,
Mhm.
You can sit in
they're
on one.
legal matters, it's
Yeah.
very straightforward how you evaluate them,
That's my
and they
point.
typically don't go across multiple meetings.
Yeah.
But planning commission, I think, to my mini-me, is exactly, you don't do that.
Yeah, you
It's
have
just
to have
too difficult.
continuity.
Could you imagine if the hotel, if we had an
I don't think
alternate
we-
step
it's
in
bad enough
after
for
that
us to keep
discussion?
track of it.
Yeah, it's hard enough
Without-
without, you don't
yeah.
do it. Like
Okay, so maybe that's why I didn't hear back, maybe they.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's a thing. I think the BZA alternate, like I say, was the result of the Charter Review Committee that
And we can always
They
do
had-
scheduled meetings. There's such a thing as a special meeting too that can occur at any time.
that's what I was gonna say.
And we
Yeah.
did move that one meeting back 2 weeks as well.
Well, yeah,
Time.
there is
Yeah.
a thing in the code that there is a special meeting that they can schedule as long as
Absolutely, so long as you
everybody
publicly advertise.
And almost as for our vacations, I think maybe you send an email around.
I did.
Because I don't have my calendar with me and things pop up, and so we do have quorums. I mean, we gotta be careful that way, don't we?
Yeah.
I think an email around either way, we'll answer back.
I
That's the way
did that already. Do you
Yeah,
want
I
to-
did, but I didn't,
Okay,
I
well-
just got it for this meeting. There might be other things popping up, maybe another
You would
one.
like me to send an email out for the rest of the
Yeah, yeah.
year?
Yeah, for the rest of the summer perhaps.
Okay.
Susan, I'll be here, I have no vacations.
Okay.
And I think typically this really is, it's a July thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
exactly,
because
yes.
people with kids gotta wait till pretty much July. You got like a 2-week window.
Yeah.
You know, if you got kids, you know, if you're.
Yeah, in all my years, we've never not had a quorum.
Right, and this is.
I don't know about you, you've been here a lot longer than me,
We're
but
pretty close to that.
Yeah, this is the
Yeah,
closest.
this is the closest I've ever seen.
And if we,
Yeah.
maybe next year we consider, maybe there's a recess for July or something like that. Or, you know, I don't know, or we try and get those vacations figured out, because I mean, yeah, if we had pushed it, we couldn't push it to next week,
Yeah, but I don't
because I
think
think
this,
there was more people missing
yeah,
next,
next month,
no, next week, like, we couldn't
Next
go out
week,
to
yeah.
whatever, next week, and then if you push it again, you're sitting on top of the next meeting.
Yeah.
It would be a waste, but I hate to.
I think we're trying to solve a problem that's not a problem.
it's, yeah, but it's also gonna be every year, too. Every year this happens, every summer, people go on vacation.
That's what I was thinking, you know, maybe you just, planning commission takes a July recess, or you would not want to do.
Well, I don't know, what's in the code, do we have to meet monthly?
Yeah, I don't know what it says,
I don't recall.
but I think just for applicants. these
Yeah,
are
you
busy
can't make them wait
months.
2 months, yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be tough.
I think it's just a communication thing, you just
Yeah.
work
Yeah.
through Susan, she'll figure out when
Yeah.
people are on vacations
It's
and
not
plan
that bad,
accordingly.
really.
That's part of Susan's job, not to give you another task.
It's not that bad, to be honest. It's not.
All right, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.